All right, welcome everybody to our recap session that we just had on Clubhouse about the transactional process of being a new real estate agent. We're really excited about, we've talked about lead generation and what it's like to market yourself. Now we're on the topic that everybody's kind of a little nervous about is actually doing the job and being a real estate agent and being a new agent at that. And what do you do? Where do you go? And so we talked about, getting with your brokerage and finding out the resources they have available, signing yourself to a mentor or trainer or coach, whatever your brokerage calls it, and have somebody there walking with you on those transactional sides. So what are some points that you got to, that you liked tonight in this conversation, Tharmila?
Thank you, Jacob. Today was a really good conversation, and to me, what I really liked about this whole thing is, nobody really talks about this stuff, right? And nobody really talks about it. And I really liked a lot of the topics that were brought up, some of the points that were mentioned. And I wanted to give a big shout out to our guest, Shane Carvello, for joining us. And he's obviously an expert at what he does. And we're super fortunate to have him in the house today. And I wanted to really, we wanted to have someone who really understood who've done a lot of deals and understand the transactional process, because there is a way to do this and there's a lot of learnings that can come out of this. So I'm really happy. And I think what I love about this is the process of, you starting in your business, getting your marketing plan, business plan together. And then you're at that point of starting to, attract leads, and then start talking to clients, but, how do you do the job? And do you have all the right tools? And so to me, I liked how we started the conversation about, what is out there? Do you even know what is out there? And what kind of questions to ask? So I really liked that we started off the conversation that way to figure out, what is it that people should, gather first, the gathering your resources, whether it's training, whether it's, grabbing some of the forms and making sure they're, in our real estate board, we have form explained because all of the forms obviously is very, terminology and technical heavy. So you wanted to really, and it's legal, right? Legal forms. So we wanted to, and that's one of my weaknesses that I was struggling with earlier on is when even now, not even just earlier on, I'm still in an early process is, how do you explain the forms to your clients? And I'm really happy that our real estate board has all of these forms in plain language, and I have them saved and I have them as a part of I have forms that are pre-filled out, like a sample form that I pre-filled out. So for me to know where the signatures are and which instances is something filled, because that isn't quite explained in those forms. So I like that part.
Yeah, definitely. And two, a lot of times you just don't know what you don't know. So it's about starting that conversation with your mentor, with your brokerage, asking them questions, and letting them know what you expect from them. You need to sit down too, I think, and figure out what your strengths, your weaknesses are, and be paired with somebody that's on the opposite side of that. That's one thing I loved about the mentor they paired me with. She is phenomenal in doing real estate. She's very detail oriented, where I'm a big picture type person. She immediately gave me a checklist and asked me like, where do I want to take my business? Where that way she didn't waste time with me in certain areas that I didn't need to know, gave me those checklists, even showed me, go through and get to know all those forms, right? There's so many of them. Go ahead and make your templates and pre-fill them out. That way you're forced to go through every one of those sections, make notes, and then, when you get your client, you'll do it. I remember my first day too, which I think is really funny, is I got some leads through one of the apps that we had and that they recommended we start out with. And I got some leads and the buyers came on the phone and I hesitated taking the call. So I don't know what to say to them. I know what not to say, but she's like, just take the call, get the information and go, and we'll go from there. And, you just have to start and you got to reach out and got to communicate to that. So do you have any other things to add about working with your brokerage and your mentor?
Yeah. And I think for me, the mentorship part is, for those who haven't seen it before, in my YouTube channel, I talk about the importance of finding the right mentor and how to find the right mentor and how to get the best out of that relationship. So feel free to check that out. And I'll add a link below in this video as well, directly to there, where I had a conversation with my mentor. And, I think with any relationship, it's what you bring to it and what you want out of that person and finding their strength. And like you said, they're finding the strengths, that things that you have weaknesses and that you need support with, and go find this person and really ask. And if you don't ask, they won't be able to help you. It really is a two-way relationship. And so someone can meet you in the middle to really help you. So I think that is the most important, is when you get started in the field, don't feel uncomfortable with asking questions. If you don't ask the questions, you will never know. And you're really at a safe place to really learn. You're right at the beginning. So this is the time to ask the question. So I encourage all of you to write the, ask the questions, ask your brokers, have multiple people check your paperwork. Because you know what, I've missed, I missed a lot of little things in my forms that I didn't even realize, because when you're taking your course, is very different than putting it into action. So I really recommend, using all the resources you have. And in our brokerage, we have over about 400, 500, 600 staff who are dedicated. You pay fees into these people helping you. So, leverage these resources. So jumping on to our next topic, and I wanted to mention about checklist as well, and I love, create your own. And not everybody likes this, but I have a checklist of really how to do the job in my own words, of how does a process, and if in case if this happened, when to ask for IDs, when to document this. And I have one for color coded for buyers and sellers. I know I'm such a nerd. So I think, and then forms of what forms to fill out, and what in what order, and how to communicate that with your clients. And I think find your process, right? Document that process, and maybe take that process and just show it to somebody like a broker or your mentor, and just run it over to make sure you have it all in the right place. And I really like, if you want to jump towards talking about buyers and sellers guide. I know that was a really hot topic that came up today, and really, when do you use them, and how to use them, and what should be in it. And I loved your point, and jump on and talk about how someone can make something special.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's always asking for that perfect template, or that, that secret template, and it really doesn't exist. Yes, there's some things that you want in there and some things that you don't, but anything that you get, you always have to make it yours. Do not just use the standard that they give you, or copy from somebody else, because that works for them. Make sure your personality's in it and what you have to offer. A lot of people as new real estate agents don't think they have anything to offer. They're brand new, but we all have different backgrounds. You and I both have a marketing background. Mine's digital marketing background, and some people are great in sales. All those things add into this real estate business. We all always have to wear multiple hats, and show those hats off. Let people know what you're good at, and then what you're weak at. Then you can leverage your brokerage for that, and your team for that, and your mentor for that. But in your buyer's guide, make sure you're going to stand out against the other agent. You really got to think through what you're offering that the other agent. Go through other people's. I mean, you can put your email address in and get a lot of people's, buyer's guides and their sellers guides. Go through and see what they're offering, and then how you can take that to the next level. One thing that, I always reference in my seller's guide is my actual background in digital marketing and social media marketing is anybody can put up a Facebook ad. It's really not that hard. But if you don't know how to leverage audiences and retargeting, and knowing how to pick that perfect photo and the great copyright that you need, you're not going to get very far with it. A lot of people put an ad, directs them to a website, and they have no way to get that person's information or track how many users. So leveraging those things that you're good at, like for me, that's what I excel at. For a seller, that's even better, because you're getting in front of more people. You only got 2 seconds to catch that view of somebody. And if you can't catch it because you didn't have a great photo, I make sure that all of my sellers get the best photos that I can get in town, and videos. And then for the larger houses, we do all the drone footage, but I make sure that everybody gets great photos and great video, no matter if it's $100,000 house or $1 million house. Is because, one, like you were talking about, that reflects on your brand, right? Bad pictures or mediocre. Don't use your phone. I mean, maybe if you're taking a picture for a client to show them, that's fine. But when you're going to be putting a listing out, make sure you have great photos.
Yeah.
And in those guys, just leverage who you are and what you're doing, because even as a new agent, you have value. What are some things that you put in?
Honestly, make sure it suits your market. Make sure you have information that are pertaining, anything legality wise. Like even for me, I put in a little profile about me and who I am and what my strengths are, but I also add in agent responsibility and general obligation due to a client, and just making sure you fill it out with what is required of you from your province or your state, and also making sure that it is pertaining to your market, and you have information in there that is helpful for them. And the way that I have my, and I'll share this within our Facebook group. And for those that aren't in our Facebook group, if you search new Realtor marketing and mindset, you'll find this and feel free to join us. We want people in this, in this group. We provide a lot of value and share templates where I'm happy to share my templates. And I like it because it has a flow to it. And to be honest, I actually use it when I'm having conversation with my clients. I pull it up and I walk them through it. And it's kind of my way to keep me in track as well. It's kind of like my own, so it's like a 2-in-1. So that's why I built it the way I did it, because I like to step-by-step process. And then in our future sessions, stay tuned, we'll talk about how to use these as lead magnets as well. But I think, and I think you hit the nail on the head. And I think that Shane also brought this up too, is about these packages is a way to provide value and to show them that this is what you're good at and why this sets you apart from everyone else kind of in your market.
No, definitely. And even in my buyer's guide, I go through the process of buying a home because, like we said, we'll talk about how to use these as a lead generation magnet. But, some people, it could be their first home, or it's been so long since they bought a home, things have changed. So I like going through the selling process, the buying process. And like you said, when you're talking with the buyers, it's kind of a guide to jog your memory on what to talk about, making sure that you're staying consistent and concise in what you're talking about. And so as we go on from the kind of the selling and listing presentations, let's talk about one thing that even Shane said, nobody talks about this, and it's so important, is popular documenting, right? I learned this in my previous business experience. I mean, this is pretty much business in general when you're dealing with clients. Everything you do needs to be in writing. Everything needs to be documented because, we both can have the same conversation and walk away with different ideas of how that conversation went. So one thing that we had talked about is make sure you're backing up all your emails, your text messages. We talked about even there's some add-ons that you can add on to, like Chrome extensions and things like that. One of them that I use is called Folio. And so every one of your contacts, it makes a folder for it and creates a timeline. So you can attach documents, photos, it all backs up to your Google Drive. If you use any type of Gmail suite or Office 365, it works for it. It is a paid a paid add-on, but it's very minimum. But I love that it keeps everything, every communication, every document, every photo, everything that you've had interaction with the client. So that way, if a problem arises, even if a client is singing your praises, but that minute one thing goes wrong, they'll quickly to turn on you because they've been hurt. So make sure you're documenting everything. And I know there was a few things that you used. So
and for me, is even just apps like SMS backup and restore, right? There's a bunch of apps that are, depending on the type of phone you're using, making sure you're using them. And I know that, one of the trick I always use is you're going to be having a lot of phone conversation and in-person meetings with your buyer and seller clients. And the best way to document them is, obviously right after you jump onto an email, it can come off as you're documenting the process. So I always let them know, hey, just so that we capture what we talked about today and so that I don't forget anything and I'm being, respectful to your time, I'm just going to send you a quick email capturing what we talked about, and just jump on an email and just say, as for our conversation, here's what I talked about and here's what I'm going to get for you. So it comes off as, you're being respectful, that you're really, you're part of the transaction really, but there's, you're also covering your, butt, and you're tracking the transaction in that way that it's protecting you, and really people don't talk about that. And what I like about this topic too is that we don't talk about it, how it should be done properly and legally too, right? And making sure that saving them is one thing, and taking a screenshot, a grab, whatever, but making sure they're organized in one area as well, to your point, like Folio or Google Drive or some sort of thing. And remember, these contracts, legal contracts, are really is a relationship between the client and the brokerage, and you're just a representative, but you are the person who's going to be filling out, you're representing the brokerage. So make sure you always have someone review something, and always you keep everything really documented. So that's a really good topic, and I'm really glad that we brought this up.
No, definitely. And then we kind of quickly segmented onto the topic of kind of scripting, role playing, getting prepared for those conversations with buyers and clients. No matter what form that you prospect, whether it's a cold lead or warm lead, you still need to have your facts in order and and be prepared. And one thing that Shane is a master on this, I know they do a lot of cold calling and they do a lot of warm calling and following up with clients, and they're constantly practicing these things. And you get a lot of people that say they don't like scripts, they don't like role playing. I don't like role playing, but I like the fact of working with somebody and say, what are some questions that you could think of that a client might have? Because somebody might have different questions in their head. So it's a way to prepare and to be knowledgeable in the fact. And I think one important aspect too is, even in overcoming objections, is to know also, if you don't know the answer, it's okay to say, you know
Yeah.
what, I think I know the answer, but I want to double check. I don't want to give you wrong information. Let me get back to you in a couple hours or tomorrow. Let me follow up with you on it. And plus, it gives you a reason to follow back up with them too. So do you have anything to add with script and role playing? And
Yeah, and it's all about your comfort level, right? Just figure out, if you're a script person who can read it word for word is one thing, but making sure someone who I like to always be prepared. So I always have, pre-written certain things for me, but you can never read it word for word. So like objection, for example, I'm not very, I don't like having them written down, because when someone asks you a question, what are you going to read through it while they're right? So it's really hard for me to get there, but I like to just be prepared by knowing your stuff. And if you don't know, just right away, just tell them, actually, that's the first time that you brought this up for me. I don't know, but I will go find out, and I think that, to your point, like just being honest, and it's really is about you're really protecting your brand and relationship at a long term as well. It's not just as one buyer, because usually a lot of your relationship tends to be a ripple effect of all things that you do. So no, that's a really good point. And to me, when you're working with preparing scripts, and it's, having role play is one thing, and being prepared is one thing, but I think ultimately, if you don't know what you're talking about, it can be easily seen through, so practice is one thing, but actually just learn and understand that you understand the material. So there's no acting involved. There is really is you providing value, period.
oh, exactly. And one of the questions I remember you asked Shane was, what do you get when you're talking to somebody that says, I'm working with a new realtor, right? And there's some great answers for that. And when he's doing some cold calling or follow-ups, with some leads that he has, he said, okay, he acknowledges it, he politely acknowledges it and keeps going on with his script, because one, it is an objection, but it's not something that objections can be overcome, right? There's
That's
an
right.
answer, there's a reason, keep moving on. And two, I remember in another clubhouse I was with him in, he had mentioned that sometimes people just say that so they get you off the phone, right? A lot of
Yes.
them don't even have an agent, or they talked about it, or their agent agreement has expired. And the way I look at it sometimes too is that, they might be working with an agent, but they might not be happy, and you're not looking to take that over because that's unethical. But you don't know that, somebody could have want to sell or buy a home that they know, and they could say, you know what, I talked to this agent the other day, he was really good, he was really knowledgeable, I wish I would have worked with somebody like him, but maybe you should give him a call. You don't know that. You don't know. I've got some people that said, oh, can you be my agent? I'm like, no, you kind of have a listing agreement with another one, go talk to their broker. But and that's another question too. If somebody says, what can I do to sign with you? I mean, it's unethical to say, oh, just fire your broker or your agent, but always redirect them as well to the broker, because it really is the broker's listing in most of the cases. So I think that's a great overcoming objection. And then another one we touched on was the, how many houses have you listed, or how many houses have you sold in my neighborhood, or how many buyers have you worked with?
Or how long have you been in the business?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a dreaded question, even for me. How do you handle that?
Yeah, you know what, for me, it's a little bit easier because automatically, and I've been asked this multiple times before, and I think it's an automatic question when people ask when you're already, like when you're a young person, often people just ask that, like, hey, how long have you been doing this? And and it's particularly because I have a full-time job as well, right? So be like, oh, you're doing this, how are you? So I think the number one thing I go to is kind of easier for me because my husband and I do investing, so automatically we're like, oh, I just got my license recently, but I've been investing for X number of years. So that conversation, it changes really quickly for me. But I really like, to our conversation tonight with you and Shane, and what we were talking about today about, I think you only, with any objection, and I love the comparison, he brought up condition versus objection, and really looking at, you make something a problem, something is a problem as much as you make it, and and that's why when I made a comment about, you have nothing to lose, and if anything, you have everything to gain, and if you change that perspective and mindset, that changes everything. And for me, I'm really the person who's in contact with a lot of our warm leads coming through our CRM, which is KV Core that I work out in, and my husband is doing a lot of cold calling. And for us, it's really about every conversation we have, it's really is a learning point. We're just learning, we're just gaining. It's really all just learning. And I think the moment you find the difference and you feel, you that fear automatically goes away, and I think, and I love that Shane said that too, just acknowledge, keep going, because the moment we stutter or we figure out a way to object that, really, then you're going to lose them as well, right?
Yeah, and we also kind of added to that is about, don't have the desperate mentality that, okay, I'll do whatever it takes to work with them, and one thing I've learned in all my years of working for myself is first half of my business, even in the marketing side, it was, I was desperate. I would lower my prices. I'd give a discount, even though I wasn't making much. I just thought, okay, well, the business will grow. And their clients that never stuck around because they're always looking for the better deal. They're always moving on. They're not really worried about growth and true investing into your business. You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And when I couldn't do the bigger packages for them and all it offers, even though they were expecting it for a lower price, they're quickly gone. And so, one thing is, don't be afraid to weed out and filter clients. You have that privilege. It's your business, and most of the times when you have somebody that's asking you to lower your commission or what do you offer, what do you charge, don't acknowledge it into the fact that it's like, oh, I can't believe you asked that question. No, I'd be like, this is what I charge, this is what I offer, and this is why I do it, and move on.
Yeah.
The quicker you stay, the longer you stay on that topic, they're going to look like, oh, you're trying to defend yourself or justify yourself. But don't be afraid to be like, sorry, I mean, if you want to work with me, this is what I do.
Yeah.
If not, I got a list of other people I can contact that are waiting in line, and move on, and try to save yourself time and problems. And those will be the first people that want to report you if something, you accidentally forgot something as a new agent. So
Yeah.
I'm always, know your value, know your
Yeah.
worth, and don't be afraid to say next.
Yeah, I like that. This segues into really about that understanding the standard, putting setting standards for yourself and understanding your value. I was asked a question about commission, but I think I struggled with it. For myself, I felt like I struggled with it. I answered it well, but I felt like I struggled with it because it caught me off guard, right? So just the moment you understand yourself and you understand, uh, this is what I work for, this is what I charge, whatever it is, and whatever the process for you when you do marketing, selling, the process you do with buying, the moment you understand that and why you do it the way you do, no one can break you. And if anybody ever asks you that question, it is what it is, right? And then you support it with the facts that this is why I do them. And you'll never have to get into an argument versus why I do it better, right? You never have to go there, right? Because the moment, it's all about the mindset of why I'm so good at what I do. And especially for us too, we have that strength, right? That marketing and seller. That's why whenever I have a conversation with the listing, I never go there, because the moment I show my listing presentation, it says everything. There's nothing to question. If anything, they're like, whoa, this is awesome. No other agents have done this for me, right? It really changes the atmosphere, because quality speaks for itself, right? I will say that when right now, like something you and I talk about, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I could do marketing like this, so I can do such and such. And then you go check their account, it speaks volume to the quality of work that they're putting out. And, when someone speaks as if they're an expert at something, or I think, and your clients will see through that as well, So no, that's a great conversation. And I think that ultimately a lot of the things we're talking about, if you haven't noticed, it all comes back to mindset, how you arrive at this business with a certain mindset that, keep moving, keep going, and don't give up on whatever the person that you're becoming, really, right? And I think that the moment you make that decision, trust me, you'll only see success.
No, I totally agree. I think it's, everybody always asks us, what are you doing? What's the secret? And when you tell them, they're like, no, can I get the real thing? And it's like, no, it's just hard work, consistency. And you had kind of alluded to this early on, but it's about, you're new, you're learning, but people don't know how to learn and adapt. And I think that's a huge a huge thing when you're in this industry or when you're working for yourself or self-employed or running a business. If you can't learn from mistakes, or you can't learn and apply something to you, you're never going to make it. So my biggest thing is, do, but also be able to adapt what went wrong and make it work the next time. And you might have to adapt it 20 times, but don't stop, because failure is just not doing, right? And so we want to keep moving forward, and that's why we named it mindset and marketing, or marketing and mindset, is because you got to market yourself to get clients. Even if you know how to do the business, if you don't have clients, your knowledge is worthless. And for the mindset portion is, you can have all the clients and stuff in the world, but if you don't have a strong mindset, you don't have a standard that you've set for your business. And I think that's a lot of things that agents aren't doing today, is they're trying to learn real estate so much, they're not even setting a standard of quality that they want for the business, the type of clients they want to work for. And those things are so important to take you where you want to go and your goal setting. You can't just work with just anybody. You got to work with people that you add value to them, and they add value to you, because your clients will add value to business, word of mouth, and you want those people that are going to speak highly of you. So I think it, like you said, all comes back to mindset and setting your standard. And that's why we needed to focus on this week, because we talk about all this marketing, but how do you do the real job? I mean, it's pretty scary in the beginning, but it's all about being confident, and knowledge is confidence. And if you have that, you move forward. So do you have anything you want to add before we close it out tonight?
No, I just wanted to say, when people ask about what your secret ingredient is, and I'm always like, salt and pepper. Then I was like, actually, I'm kidding, a little bit of those Sri Lankan chili powder, but I'm kidding. No, there's always a special sauce, but really though, thank you everyone for joining. We had a really great crowd tonight. We had an awesome conversation, and I know there are a lot of people that are getting a lot of value out of this, and we're creating a community really about talking about this stuff really openly. So thank you, Jacob, for being a part of this journey with us. And and if you're not, there's going to be links in this comment below. Feel free to connect with us on Facebook. If not, check out the link and register to get all of this content right after our conversation, our recap conversation from Clubhouse. So thank you, everyone, and see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you.